Well, I think Thor resonates more now with the Ragnarok movie that we did, and also now with Love and Thunder, because we're giving him more human problems, more relatable problems. Let's face it, you can't really relate to a space Viking who's thousands of years old and is basically a zillionaire who lives in space. So you got to give these characters things that we've all experienced, and in this film, I think we can relate to him more than ever, where he's lost. He's trying to find purpose, and he, luckily, by the end of the film, he finds that purpose. My approach to Thor was to create a film that's fun and energetic and adventurous, but also emotional. And I really wanted to concentrate on this idea of love and what love means to Thor, and whether or not that's the thing he's searching for. Is this idea of loving someone and being loved. So we find Thor in a very reflective, meditative position at the beginning of the film. He's trying to find himself. He's looking internally. He's doing a lot of searching, like a lot of us do when we feel lost. We suddenly turn to crystals and meditation to try and figure our stuff out. And it's the same with Thor in this. We wanted to create this idea that he's going through a midlife crisis, and he's, after years of saving planets and saving other people, he hasn't really left anything for himself. And it's about him finding the way to find purpose. So Natalie Portman is now back in the MCU. She's back in the Thor franchise, and in a bigger, better, bolder way. And it's extremely exciting because she's now the mighty Thor. She's no longer Thor's girlfriend, the scientist in Albuquerque. She's now the mighty Thor who has the hammer, and she's got the cape and the armor, and she can fly, and she's wielding Mjolnir, and she can harness lightning. I mean, she's an incredible character, super strong, and it's great to see Natalie. It's great to see a female superhero all the time. It's great, but to see one so powerful and really dominating a lot of the storyline, and really being an equal presence with Thor is a great thing to see. When Thor and Jane meet after years of being apart and years of not talking, she's on the battlefield, and she's dressed as the mighty Thor, and she's got her powers, and she's doing amazing things with the hammer. She can wield the hammer in a way that Thor never could. And Thor's reaction, apart from the surprise and the shock at seeing someone holding his hammer, is really more focused on that's his ex-girlfriend, and he hasn't seen her for a long time, and maybe this is the thing he's been looking for to fill that hole in his life, the thing that might give him purpose. The villain in this film is played by Christian Bale, and the villain's name is Gorr the God Butcher. And he comes from a run of comics from Marvel, it's called The God Butcher. The character's called The God Butcher. And he's probably one of the more sympathetic villains that they've had in the MCU. And he's very formidable, and essentially, he's a very scary, maybe the scariest villain they've had. But he's sympathetic because he's dealing with issues that, without giving it away, you understand where his anger and his drive comes from. Tessa Thompson is back as Valkyrie, and she's now King Valkyrie. She's ruling over New Asgard in Norway, and they're making their best attempts to integrate into Earth society, and they've made a little tourism town out of that little part of Norway, and they've got a thriving industry, and Valkyrie is overseeing all of this. She's got new responsibilities. However, she's also a career soldier. She's a professional fighter, and that's really the life that she's used to. And so she's now in a bureaucratic position where she's just doing a lot of admin and a lot of meeting a lot of delegates from other countries and stuff, and business meetings, and for her, it's really cool to see the character like that. He's dealing with this stuff and being very responsible for the first time in a long time, but also still, her heart is in the battle and going on adventures, and then she does get to go on the adventure. Korg is a fantastic character in the film. He's made of rocks, and he's played by one of the greatest actors I've ever worked with, Taika Waititi. And well, what can I say about Taika as an actor? You know, he's often late, doesn't learn his lines, so that's very frustrating. But he means well, and that's why I give him lots of takes to get it right. Russell Crowe, one of the finest actors ever to grace the silver screen, as someone that I've admired for many years. I think I've seen Master and Commander about 60 times, and Gladiator probably 100. And he comes into the film playing Zeus, the Greek god. I shouldn't have to explain that, but he's just an amazing force, an amazing presence, and he's kind of like the overlord of all the gods, and he just brings a real sort of weight to that part of the film, and it's also fun. It's Russell Crowe being a bit cheeky. The music in Thor: Love and Thunder, it's very eclectic, and the influences that we were listening to when we were in pre-production and throughout the editing as well was a lot of like kind of classic 80s rock, and that's why we went straight for Guns N' Roses. And we're using a bunch of their songs, and I've loved Guns N' Roses since I was very young, and it's just such an honor to be able to include their music in this film. And coupled with that, we have an amazing score by Michael Giacchino, who did done a lot of the Marvel films, and he's one of the best out there. And it just helps to create a wonderful tone that switches between the emotion and also the adventure and the overall over-the-topness of the story. For this film, Thor: Love and Thunder, we used the volume, which is basically it's a big circular room made of LED screens, and you project your environments on the screen. So imagine 1,000 televisions all in a big circle in the ceiling as well, and then you put an entire environment 360 degrees. And what's great is it lights the characters, and the actors themselves can see all of the stuff. They can see what instead of on a green screen or a blue screen, you're asking the actors to pretend they're looking at something, and then you put that in later on. And so often they'll be looking at like a little dot on a green screen or a tennis ball on a stick, and then they ask, "What is this?" And you have to say, "I don't know. It might be a dragon, but it also might be a flying dolphin." There are two really great, wonderful characters in the film named Tooth Gnasher and Teeth Grinder, and they are gigantic goats, and they're space goats, and they are a very important part of the film because they drag the Viking ship that our heroes are on their journey on, and they drag it through space. And so these goats actually come from the original Thor mythology, the Norse mythology, and they also come from the comic books. So they've been around a long time, the first time in a movie.